Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Good evening, good morning, good night from all over the world. Finally, after a long period of somewhat vacation, somewhat busy, somewhat something else, finally we're having another Zoom meeting, talk with, and this time we're going to have some friends talking with us. I invited some referees, some colleagues who were very busy this last 3-4 months, 2-3 months, very, very busy. They made, they whistled and they worked in a record number of matches. I've heard some 48 and 46 matches in one season, international matches. This is really incredible. And we wanted, I'd like to talk and some topics and some different points of view and perspectives from these referees to listen how the experience they had in these tournaments, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some nice fun. So thank you very much all for joining us, and especially Pati from the USA, and we have Juraj Mokry from Slovakia and Wojciech Maroszek from Poland as well. Thank you for joining us, guys. And first of all, I'd like to ask Pati, we'll start with the ladies. Tell us, this was a very, very busy period that you had. I mean, those two nominations, the VNL and then the Olympic Games, they were all in bubble. They were all very, very busy. Let us know how it was for you.
Well, for me, it's interesting. I don't have young children at home, right? I have the granddaughter now that, of course, I talk about her all the time. She's going to be 3 here in October. But I don't have little children. I can't imagine if I would have been younger, right, with the little ones and having to be gone from basically May 22nd. We had a bit of a period at home, but not very much until August 9th. I do have a full-time job. I'm director of officials for the U.S. But many of the referees have full-time jobs. I mean, that's probably the biggest challenge is as you're trying to have your full-time job, take some time off, maybe take some vacation, but many people are working through this because, I don't know about you guys, but we don't have that kind of vacation, maybe a couple of weeks in America, in the United States, our vacation bits are not much. So I think that probably was the biggest challenge, trying to work full-time in a different time zone. I almost wish we were on the same time zone of where I was, because you only can do what you can do during those work hours. But my work hours were at night, so I literally could be putting in hours. But to get really focused in on the exact question, really what was the most important is I had an absolute blast. I love concentrated events. Even though I miss my family, I really appreciated every day being able to get to the gym and watch the best people in the world do their thing, to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time, even as reserve referee, I literally had some of the most fun I've ever had as reserve referee. I mean, there's nothing like sitting in the reserve chair watching Wojciech and Juraj work, right? And, and one thing that's super important that I really want to leave the meeting with, and I'm going to talk about it, hopefully not too much, but the people that I work with are the most kindest and wonderful people. And trust me, I've worked with people that are really focused on their own performance, really driven folks. And I love them, but incredibly driven and almost like they're in a bubble themselves. But, folks like Wojciech and Mokry are very aware of their place in officiating, which is to serve others, in my opinion. And they are incredible to work with. I think for me, it was a joy for my last season to be with these kind of people, finishing my career this way with the concentrated number of matches. So I could really, we're just like players too. The more matches we do, the better we get. And I knew with that concentration of matches, with that level of teams and players, refs, going from the VNL to the Olympics was a huge advantage for me. And so I try only to look at the advantages. I try never to look at the disadvantages, which is like being gone from May 22nd to August 9th. And so I knew the advantages. I focused in on them. I focused in on being in Italy and being in Japan and the good things that were there. And I had a completely amazing time.
How was the time that you've been there? I mean, being in a bubble in Italy for 30, I think 37 days, more or less, in the same place with a lot of restrictions. First of all of this was supposed to be 1 year before. I mean, in 2020.
Right.
And we were getting ready for that mentally and professionally for that time. And then the COVID, the pandemic came in and blocked everything. So everybody didn't know what's going on. And once you receive that information, you're going to go to Rimini in Italy for 37 days, and then also for the Olympic Games in Tokyo. This kind of tournament, such a long tournament with all the restrictions in a bubble, meaning a very closed area, how did it affect you, I would say mentally, but also professionally or with the group and everything? Because it's really something completely different than whatever we saw until now.
Roy, there's one thing that helped me through my career is the coaching bit, right? Having coached for 25 years and been a player. So the danger of anyone is to think about what you wish you had. You just can't do that. It affects you mentally. If you talk about clinical psychology, they talk about, the issue of positivity, happiness. How do you put yourself in the right frame of mind when you're in certain circumstances that may not have been what you had hoped for or ideal? I'm smart enough now, maybe because of my age, I got to be perfectly honest with you. Maybe I knew that I might not even had a chance to go. Maybe they would have retired me a year early. Maybe the games would have been canceled. So I remember Karch had a great podcast on gratitude, and it was amazing. And it was regarding the pandemic. He was teaching his players to be grateful that they could train in these kind of private settings, in their homes, in these gyms, in locations that they had set up, even though they weren't able to be together, and to be grateful for that. And I was incredibly grateful that I could even go. I was grateful that I was able to be in a beautiful place like Italy. We were fortunate that after a week, they let us go outside. So we could go outside, which, by the way, Italy in that time, oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. So a lot of us were going on walks. We could go to the beach, a certain area of the beach that they had linked off for us. I got to eat meals with my teammates every day. I mean, that's a gift. We had so much fun sitting around talking about hilarious things. I just remember, and I'm going to bring Vlado into this, but I remember sitting at the table, and I've never heard Vlado. He's hilarious. And I don't get the chance to hang out with him like everybody else does from Europe.
Yeah,
I spent
almost
evenings.
never smiles, but sometimes when he breaks.
Oh, no.
Like,
I saw a side of Vlado. I remember one time I looked over at you and I said, he is so funny. I thought I was at my own entertainment, listening to all these guys talk. And I literally sat there and I didn't say a word because I was hilariously laughing, dying. I had so much fun hanging out with people. So, you make it what you want to make it. And I really think that's critical when you're in a tough situation with a supervisor, with maybe a colleague, maybe a setting, maybe your performance isn't quite what you want. The attempt to be grateful and appreciate your people and be with them. And then take advantage of the city. In both Japan, but particularly Italy, it was fantastic. And there's a beauty to a lockdown. It forces you to focus in on what's really important, the officiating, and just your personal, whatever you're personally having to do, whether it's work, whether you're checking in with your family. And it really, for me, it was a really positive experience because it's how you choose to look at it. And I went to a ton of games, watched a ton of my colleagues, learned a lot, to be honest with you. I tried to get to as many games as I could that I wasn't roughing, and watching them and learning from them, particularly because I'd never done the men before. FIVB women haven't done the men since I think 13 maybe. So none of the women had done FIVB men's games. Maybe CEV, you guys. I do my men's games here in the United States, but I had a chance to watch those guys and learn as quickly as I could. And then when I got on the court with the guys, I felt like, okay, I'm watching how the guys are handling them. And it was just an incredible opportunity for me.
UI, I wanted to ask you, as the one who's the most experienced from all of us, I mean, you've been to several Olympic Games, you've been countless years in the VNL or the World League and everything. But this situation was really new again. Like I said, it was a very long tournament, very long time to be with. Um, how did you experience it? What's your thoughts about this kind of things from your experience since the past times?
So first, what I have to say, I'm not the most experienced. Have exactly the same experience as Pati has in world volleyball, as we did we passed our course together, and we participated in the same number of Olympic Games and same number of top events in FIVB. So it's not like you said at the beginning. But to answer your question, I can tell you I was afraid of this season at the beginning, because the pressure from my work was high. The pressure of feeling that we missed one season of regularity in refereeing was also important, because before we were used to have matches regularly, not only on a national level, but also internationally. Last season was not like that, was a little bit different. And then suddenly you have to go for 37 days somewhere, and you have to leave your job, and you have to ask your bosses to go, to be free, even you were absent due to COVID before. Luckily, the bosses were, how to say, empathic, and if you say magic word Olympic Games, then they say, okay, go. So I said, it's a preparation. And at that time I thought, okay, it's a nice excuse, but I can tell you, in Olympic Games, I felt very comfortably due to the fact that I spent these 37 days in Italy. First of all, these 22 days in Tokyo were not so long, so it was fantastic. So for me personally, I completely changed my view on long competitions. Any world championships, it's a one-day trip compared to VNL. Secondly, we were in a rhythm on a daily basis, every day match, because 18 referees, 16 you need per day. It was really day by day, one or even two matches if there was a reserve. And this was a rhythm which, as Pati said, was like a camp for players. It was camp for us. And we learned some basic mechanics on a daily basis. And on this, we can afterwards build something which can come something new. Normally, before, when I was in Rio, for example, I had to count days off to be available for this kind of event. In this case, when I received the gift from my bosses, okay, go there as a home office. So imagine this gift to get 5 weeks of home office in Rimini, or better say in Cervia. This was a gift. And finally, this gift was, okay, I had to work, I have to do something for my job, but still I had time to focus on what was our job there. And as Pati said, to grow day by day. And this growing was, in my opinion, visible afterwards in Tokyo, because there we could already enjoy even small things which are there. There is a huge benefit of our memory, that we erase some bad things and we remember and recall more often the positive things. So if you will ask me now, what is negative, what you remember, what was it? I don't know. I don't think there were some negatives. We were lucky to be together. And if I can go now, I would go. I already miss it. I didn't have a match since that time. I know Wojtek would not say this, maybe, because he spent another 21 days or how many days in the European Championships. But I can tell you, I'm looking forward to the match in Zagreb next Wednesday, because it's nice to be there.
You can say that it's a little bit addictive. You get addicted to whistle after so many times and everything, because sometimes in some competitions, you say, okay, I had enough. It was 3 weeks or 4 weeks of competition, and thank you, I want to go home. But now, once you get home, you feel it that you still want to go back to whistle. You feel like you're, like Pati said, you're getting better and better, and there's a drive for it.
Definitely it is. Refereeing is an addiction. Definitely it is, yeah.
You spoke just before, you said that and we know that the COVID fell and we didn't have any competitions. major competitions before Rimini, and then with the VNL was the preparation for the Olympic Games. But when you arrived to the VNLs, the first matches, did you feel off? Did you feel like, you know, it's a feeling that after a long period of not wrestling, you're almost like a new referee, some different nervousness or stuff like that?
Oh, okay. It was not completely like this. We were lucky in Europe that there were some matches, not so many, but there were some matches. And also in my country, we had some matches, fewer not than before, but we did. So it was not exactly like this. What was different was this missing spectators. And I think VNL was special with the ambience, with the no tribunes. This I missed a lot. I felt much more comfortably in Tokyo, even the stands were empty, but I felt my hall. This is the sport hall where I'm at home, but not in a Hollywood studio. This is not, I didn't like this so much. Maybe it was nice on TV, but for me as a referee, it was not as good as even empty stands in a big sport hall. So this is maybe the feeling of the space, I don't know.
There is some kind of effect of the crowd and I think the sports hall on the referee and the refereeing itself, I guess. Some different, you know, atmosphere around and everything, for sure. Somebody who knows this kind of atmosphere is Wojciech from Poland, that has one of the main, I think the strongest crowd and supporters of volleyball in I think one of the main country in the world for volleyball. And that, Wojciech, how was it feeling for you to whistle in such a let's say a TV studio in Rimini, from what you've known in Poland just before coming there? As the youngster, you know, you're the newcomer in this kind of competition with the nice legs behind you, I see. Yeah, nice.
The baby here, a debutee. Hello, everybody. Well, it was so much different from previous Sunday when some of you probably noticed me as the first referee in the final of European Championship with over 8,000 spectators in Katowice in Spodek Hall. A very nice game, by the way. Yes, it was a TV studio, like Juraj said. It was very different. Still, I think I adapted pretty well. And Juraj mentioned about the characteristics of the tournament. I will try to show you some photos during our meeting in the background. Now, what you see is the beach in Rimini or Cervia, that we could use. So the rhythm of the tournament, like Juraj mentioned, it was pretty comfortable because we knew that there is a game nearly every day, sometimes 2 games, but then you still could use the good food that we had in the hotel. We could use the swimming pool, we could use the beach. So in fact, I would say that those 35 days, at least for me, was closer to a vacation period than a busy period, to be honest. And I will remember it as a very good time. And like Juraj mentioned, I had 3 tournaments, long tournaments this summer. So I had Rimini, the VNL, then Olympic Games, and then European Championship, 21 days, together with Fabrice Colados, with whom I was in Rimini and Tokyo, and then with Stefano Cesare, the best captain of the refereeing team ever, who led us in Rimini. So we had fun also in Tampere, Finland, and Katowice in Poland. Like everybody mentioned.
Tell me something about how was the feeling. I mean, this was the first year that you received such tournaments, such major tournaments, and first time for you in the Olympics. And because of the situation, so 3 major tournaments, and you arrived to the finals, to the main events and everything. How was the feeling? How does it feel for a young newcomer? You know, we're talking all the time with eyes.
So guys, this was the main factor, right? I have 2 young children. What you see here is the way they met me in the airport after I came back from Tokyo. It says, hello, Wojtek, the Hawkeye from the Olympic Games from Tokyo. I got the nickname Hawkeye because in one game I noticed some slight ball in or ball out thing. And this is how I was called in Polish TV. The really big thing for me was to leave my family. I miss guys a lot. And I was very happy that between the Olympic Games and European Championship, we managed to go for some family holidays. Of course, you can say that you can always call them and have them on video, but it's really not the same. And you know, children sometimes get bored talking to the parents after 1 minute, so it's not exactly the same as hug them, kiss them, and so on. As about my work, when the pandemic started, I came back to my previous business. I run a consulting agency, and there was really a lot of work during last year. So I couldn't leave my clients alone for those 4 months. I had to work from Rimini, Tokyo, and European Championship. Well, we survived all together with my clients, but it was not easy. So the whole period was really, really busy for me. Like I think Juraj mentioned, I refereed 48 games in 4 months. So it's like 2 full seasons in Poland.
So I wanted to ask you, Patty. I've heard that we know that it was your last season and you're about to retire and to become our coach. How these tournaments, this experience that you had, all these things help you, maybe gave you some push on as a coach to understand as a coach, or share with us your feelings of retirement? You know, you're changing the hat, you're changing your status and everything. Unmute yourself.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to move to the FIVB commission. There's no question. You know, initially it was funny because I think, Roy, you were the one that told me that I was on the FIVB commission. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. It was hilarious. Many of you are unaware, but Roy goes, Patty, congratulations. I'm like, I have no idea, Roy, what's going on. Help me. But it's interesting when you asked me this question. A year ago, if you would have said I was retiring, I would not have been ready. You know, it's just like a player again. You know, everybody wants to play, but then there's a point where you realize, you know, it's time to move on. Whether you're like Karch, 43 years old when he retired and went into coaching, or whether you're, you know, 30. But you know, I retired from playing, and then I went into coaching. Did that for 25 years while I was always reffing since I was 18. But it was interesting when this moment came where they kept extending me. I was like, yes, because I love being around everyone, and I love being around the teams. I love officiating. It's incredible. Of course I prefer playing, but at 58, not a pretty sight. I loved coaching for my 25 years, but there is a beauty to officiating, because one thing I've always told in the US, we're really working hard on recruiting right now, getting more refs, because every sport is having trouble with refs. And we keep trying to tell people the beauty of reffing is you go to the game and you ref, and then you go home. There is no training practices. As a coach, you don't have to get food for people, put them in a hotel, take care of them. We refs, we work on our own to become stronger. We read our material, and then we go actually ref the game. And we're done refereeing the game. As Juraj said, we leave and we go to a great place in Italy and go have dinner, listen to Vlado, laugh our butts off, and go to bed. So, you know, reffing is a beautiful thing in the sense it's compartmentalized in terms of our duties. So I really wasn't ready to be finished, because I knew once I was done with the international reffing that, you know, my only view of it would be, it wouldn't be there. But I would tell you that this year, when we were starting the season, I said, I think I'm ready to retire for 2 big reasons. And we've often talked about that with all of us within the FIVB, is that it's time to retire. There's a lot of people behind me that are waiting. And I should have been gone 3 years ago, and there was a lot of talented people waiting to move up. I've just spoken to 3 of our referees that are Category C referees that are at major events right now, and they're all having the most amazing time. And that will not happen unless people like me get out. So I will tell you this, kind of watching the Italian system where they come in and they ref 1 Olympic Games and they go, and then another referee has an opportunity. There is a beauty to that I'm really paying attention to. But particularly for me, I was so glad that I was able to finish at the games. I was so grateful that I actually had an event I could go to, because many of my friends didn't have an event they went to, right? They just retired. So absolutely the best season ever. And then being able to be on the commission and work with my college. And what does that mean in terms of my experience? I'll tell you what, I don't think you need to be an active ref. Well, personally, I have personal opinions, which if I'll maybe talk about that over dinner, but not in a public space. It will help me personally, Pati Rolf, to work with my colleagues, having worked with them for the last, 10, 15 years. Well, with Juraj since 99 when we went to our course, because I think it matters that I understand the experiences of a referee, how difficult the job is, right? And you mentioned a huge word that I think is a gigantic word, the issue of empathy, right? Empathy, more empathy than compassion, but kind of a combination of words. That empathy is a critical place that a coach needs to bring into the space of officiating, because of the pressure and stress that happens within the game itself, the errors that can kind of be generated. And then even Wojciech and I talked one day about the element of training and education of the group, of a team. And I'm really excited to join that group of folks, and there's amazing names on that list, and talk about, like, how can we help our referees have the tools that they need to be successful and be calm and feel good about their performance and their readiness to perform in these gigantic events that we have. So I think it's going to for sure help me with the element of empathy and understanding clearly what the needs of the officials are.
Yeah, it seems like, do you feel like there's a point that you feel that you want to become a teacher and to pass on all your experience you accumulated all those years to the young generation?
No, not one wish to do any of that, because the reality is I view education differently. I am not the teacher. The referees are the teachers. The referees are the people that are experiencing it, and I need to be there and watch and go, okay, Wojciech, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Because they're the professional, they're the players. I would argue it's like a pro coach. I don't think you're seeing the Miami Heat coach telling these top pros, I'm going to teach you how it should be done, because that coach doesn't have the experiences of these pro athletes. These are pros. We're working with professionals, and I would argue incredibly high level professionals. Even when I retire, now that I'm retired, I'm going to, they're going to move beyond me in officiating. Does that make sense, Roy? Because I'm going to be done. I'm just going to be a watcher now. They're going to be in their experiencing this, these teams, these players, and these coaches. They're going to have things to educate me on, to be honest with you. So I think a really important space for a referee coach is really, my job is to make sure that I'm listening to what the referees are saying and asking and telling me what they need and providing that, and also having them talk about solutions that they think would have worked better. And then I might put I call it my 2 cents. In America, we use that quite a bit. I might put my 2 cents in there, or maybe say, we had something that happened at the games where there was discussion about really what should the rule be. Ultimately, when all the referees get together, and I still remember that we were at a world championship, and they asked us a bunch of questions and had us get together and write down our feelings about all these things. And I thought that was an incredible thing to do, to allow us to say, we believe these things on these elements of the game. I do think that's a critical space for us with our kind of our top referees. And I think the importance of listening to them. And then once, if there's consensus, boom, we go. If there's not consensus, then the commission needs to step in and say, this is the way we're going to do it, after getting the feedback from the coaches and players, but as well as the referees. So I'm looking for a more holistic approach to our officiating cadre. And I'm really fired up about the ability to communicate with all the other commission members, because many of them are high-level referees. So I'm super excited about it.
Okay. Juraj, what was your, how can you give us some experience of the work together with the coaches that you have been, the referee coaches, the work together with Willie, with the challenge referees? How was the team working together during the Rimini and then in the Olympic Games?
Well, I think this is the most important to be a good team, especially at this kind of long events, because many times even we don't think, but we need support. Sometimes we don't feel that we need this support, but the others can feel that and then can help you. And what Pati said, that the role of the coach is to feel that somebody probably needs some hint, sometimes maybe to kick into the arse, sometimes to ask what's the problem. And for me, it was very good that we had these coaches. The only problem, I expressed this, my opinion. Also, we had the chance to talk with Mr. President during one meeting, and I mean, Mr. Algrasa, yeah. So we could speak about it, and I really asked if possible that these coaches are present there with us, because they should feel the atmosphere which is there. It's not so easy to be a coach as a distant coach. In that case, it's okay. It can be coaching, it can be maybe more mentoring, but still they miss the moment of the being there together and feeling the what's happening there. But still, I can tell you, it was every time pleasure for me to read messages from our coaches. Okay, because the communication was on different levels. We communicated via Zoom or via some WhatsApp, or we just receive an email with some remarks, some comments. And many times these comments were just encouraging us to continue in what we did. And this is, I think, the most important, to give us feeling that we are performing well, and to give us feeling that we want to perform even better. I remember, this is not from this event, I remember once with, maybe I mentioned that already to some of you, that we were with Songsak Charopong in one tournament in Berlin. It was Olympic qualification tournament 9 years ago in Berlin. And was Fabrizio Pasquali, was Paolo Tursi there, Abdullah Alenesi, very friendly teams there. And the first thing what Songsak told us, like really experienced referee, and he was already coach in that time. He was not referee delegate, he was a coach. And what he said told us, gentlemen, I'm here to support you and to protect you. Players are against you, coaches are against you, jury is against you, but I will be here to protect you. And this was the feeling during the whole tournament. With him, we were on the same boat. And that's the role of the coaches, in my opinion, to be on the same boat. They don't need to be captains, but they should be on the same boat to be able to understand the feeling of sailors, and in case of necessity, to help them to sail the good direction. Maybe not the captain, maybe sometimes we need just one word which completely changes our approach, and this is enough. So I'm really happy that Pati, that Franz Loderus, that Fabrizio, they are now coaches, and I'm sure they know how to do that, because they remember the feeling, some moments or some situations when they needed the help. Not the help, you should whistle double and triple and I don't know what, but the help how to go out of this feeling after the match when I missed 3 or 4 challenges, and what to do different in a different way, or simply how to handle the situation. So for me personally, it was very good that we had these coaches even on a distant manner. It was a little bit better in Tokyo, where they were 3 finally. Yeah, so they were present. And what I heard now in Mexico, they had also 3 coaches, the newcomers in FIVB level, and they appreciated it a lot because they had the best coaches. So this is important to have the coach not as an evaluator, but to have a coach as a friend, to be on the same boat.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I make a quick comment to what Yuri said about this element of the coaches? You know, I just had an experience here a couple of weeks ago at Kansas. I was University of Kansas, and we had a unique group. And I apologize, gentlemen, but this doesn't ever happen. We were at a major Division I event, which is basically your professional league. And we had only women. We had only women administrators. We had only women line judges. We had only women refs. We had only women cops, police officers that were our escorts. And we had only women scorers. It was bizarre. So I didn't pick up on it because I was just completely oblivious to it all. But all of a sudden someone says, we're going to take a picture, because they have a reffing room where they have tons of basketball refs, but they don't have any volleyball. And the new girl goes, I want to get a picture of all of us. And she took all of us, the cops, them, and lined us up on the wall. And we had this gigantic photo of an all women, like literally an all women crew. It was hilarious. But then we went into the locker room. We were doing our debrief after the game. And one of our line judges is an older woman and quite stout. Okay, she's quite stout, but a beautiful personality and very sweet. And she had a really rough game. I had a number of, like, I would say 5 overrules on the lines, which is bizarre. I never really, I mean, I've had maybe 3, 4, but we were up into the 5 and 6ers this game, which was good that we overruled, and the call was correct, but hard on the line judges, right? Well, then I was talking to her, and you could see she was visibly shaken by her performance. And remember, these are televised games. We have, you know, in the US, we get 5,000, 7,000 people at a game. And remember, these line judges are coming from these hometowns where all these fans are coming. So that's all their friends up in the stands. It's not so easy. So I was chatting with her, and to make a long story short, I was like, hey, what's going on? You just, you know, how are you doing? Because she's a friend. And she goes, we're in the same boat, as Juraj said. And I said, what do you need? Like, I asked her, what do you need? And she goes, I'm just so uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, tell me what, and she goes, I can't squat down like all those young people. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, I'm trying to squat down like my line judge coach told me to do. I was at training. And if I squat down, I'm in so much pain, I can't even concentrate. I was dying because she is a very big woman. And I'm like, no kidding. She doesn't train. So it's not like for 2 hours she can be squatting in the squatted position, moving around like she's a 20-year-old. And I looked at her and I said, she goes, but they won't let me stand up. And I said, stand up. She goes, I'm a good line judge. This is the worst performance I've had in my life. I go, you do you. I go, you do whatever you want. You call those lines. I'm going to be paying attention to you tomorrow. I go, you back tomorrow? She goes, I'm back tomorrow. I go, you do whatever you want to do to be awesome. The next day, you guys, she was 100%. She was standing straight up and down, not one movement on the line, which is hilarious, right? And there's only 2 line judges in America, so it's not so easy. Every call was perfect, and we went back in the locker room, and she literally busted out crying, gave me a big hug. And she goes, I can't thank you enough. Oh my God, it felt great. And all this stuff. And this element of like going into these events, like you're always talking about, is that the referees just need the element of support. And then they also need just to communicate about what their challenges are, what they're fighting against. I mean, we have a lot of referees that have circumstances at home that they're trying to manage while they're still trying to ref. And I think his point about the boat thing is so really important, because there are so many moments. I'll always tell the story of Susanna. I was R1 in a match a couple of years ago where my son and his wife went into hospital really 2 months before the baby was due, our granddaughter. And I was in reffing in Japan. And my son calls and said, we're going into emergency labor. I freaked out, you guys. I freaked out. I turned into a crate. I mean, I was so bothered that my son was having a child under incredibly scary conditions from my perspective, right? And where was I? I was in Japan reffing. I had a hard time not just going to my boss saying, hey, I'm leaving. I got to go back. I got to be there for my son, because I've never been there for my kids. And particularly in this moment, I thought, if anything happens to that baby and I'm not there, I will never forgive myself. And then Susanna noticed something was wrong. And we were in the taxi going to the game, and I was incredibly stressed out. And I looked at her, she goes, what's going on? And I go, oh my God, I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want anybody to worry, but this is happening. And she goes, Patty, you do whatever you have to do. You need to go home, go home. If you need me today, I'm here for you. And I remember thinking, no, let me rep this game and see how things are going. And then I'll call my family afterwards. And I remember I said to her, I go, listen, I am so, I have an internal voice right now that's really not letting me just focus on officiating. You got to help me. In this match, if I freeze, please God, just point and tell me where to go. And this actually happened, you guys. And Susanna was there every minute of the game, talking to me in my headset. There was one moment where the ball hit the ground and I have no memory of it hitting the ground. I mean, they hit the ground, it bounced. I was constantly thinking about like what horrible things could happen to my son. And then I looked at her and I had no idea what was going on. And she stared at me and then she just signaled out and pointed. And I remember I signaled out and pointed. And I was like, you're the best. And I got through this match with her. But see, these are the kind of people that we're working with, right? People like Susanna, Juraj, Wojciech, just amazing people that we're all in the same boat. We all have moments. And uniquely coaches have to be there. And getting back to the point, uniquely coaches have to be there and understand that Juraj's right. They just need to know that they're doing fine. That and that they can work their way through it. And I think that's the critical element of these. And like Franz, I had Franz for the first time. I've never had him. I had him one time in my life. And honest to God, I said, you are an amazing coach. I have never had, I've had a ton of great coaches, but there's something unique about Franz. And I don't know what it was, but I felt so comfortable reffing that that was an event I was never stressed out at when he was there. Just the way he talks to you, like he's reffing with you, like, just incredible camaraderie with him.
Okay, Wojciech, from all of these talks, as you are the newcomer, you come with the less experience for these kind of matches, for these kind of tournaments. You arrive to the top level of the matches, meaning the finals and everything. How was the feeling for you arriving there and whistling with all those experienced referees around you, with all of them in such a level that was probably the first time for you?
I think Rimini was unique concerning this point. We stayed 35 days, meeting every day at breakfast, every meal, spending time in the hall, spending time on the buses. Like Pati mentioned, we had several talks that lasted nearly 4 hours. So we get to know really good each other. It's obvious that after 4 months, I met those guys more often than my wife. They are really my family. You know, we use this phrase, sister, brother, but there is something in it. When we go to referee the match, a top game full of emotions, tension, then we are really like, it's like a brotherhood, brothers in arms, people going to fight, standing one for the other and helping one to the other. So this is what I learned from the guys. This is something like, maybe not for of course, creating family. The ties, the emotional ties are really strong. And when you have an, let's say, easy game, but you get a support from your co-referee, then when you go to a tough game and you have the same referee, you know you can count on him or her. So it's really strong support in every game. But Roy, when you invited us to the meeting, you promised it will be full of funny situations or interesting situations. So
we're gonna
if you allow me,
are you gonna go? Go for it. Go for it. What do you want to tell us about?
Right. So what you see in the background is a screenshot from Challenge Booth. It's the bronze medal game in Tokyo, Brazil against Argentina. I think it was fourth set when Palacios, who spiked the ball in the opponent's space, which of course is illegal. I whistled the fault, and imagine in 1 second I had Facundo Conte at my post saying, "Oh, come on, you invented a fault and you are destroying our game." I had Luciano De Cecco trying to get some information from me. On the other side, I had Bruno Rezende coming to me, hey, why are they protesting? It was very clear decision. And then I had Heike Kraft, the challenge referee, telling to my ear, hey, we can see it, yes, look at this, the small screen. But then in the same ear, I heard Fabrice Colados speaking to the coach of Argentina, Mendes, about challenge, probably challenge request. And the whole discussion, well, yes, you can challenge it, but then we will show the crop picture, you will not see the hand and so on. So I didn't know which direction to look. And for several seconds, I really thought, okay, my strategy will be to wait until all the emotions go down. And in the end, it worked because everybody went to their positions. And in the end, I called Luciano De Cecco and he's saying, come on, I can see the picture that you see now in the screen. I know that Michael was right, your player made the fault. And if you want, we may show it, but do you want this challenge or not? So Luciano just spoke to his coach through 9 meters saying, do we take the challenge? No. Okay, no, let's go back to play and we could continue the game. So even the most tense game and things may happen. Sometimes it's good to be patient a little, allow all the emotions to go down, and it helps to solve all the problems.
So let me concentrate something on this. I want to emphasize something more on this kind of situation where you whistle for a fault almost instinctively because you see reaching or you see block or neck touch, and I mean, you whistle for it instinctively, and you see also at the same time you see the points. It's the whistle is going to finish the match or will continue the match because it's the point which is not allowing the other team to win. And then realizing that you whistled something, you start to think, this is the point that they didn't win them the match, or I took them the point. There's a lot of thoughts going in split seconds in your mind. Some of them could be, you can feel the blood rushing down from your head. You're like getting nervous because you have all these top players running towards you, shouting, and you need to start to explain something, or maybe in the challenge it will be realized that you missed it or not. Can you describe those feelings? I mean, because all of us, we whistle almost instinctively. All of us are experienced and our decisions are quite instinctively. But in these top matches of the Olympic Games, you had in the Euro volley, and I think also in the Rimini, you have some whistles which you can feel the rush of blood running down from your face, and you're becoming all white, and the pressure is on. What can you tell us about this kind of feelings? Wojciech. Disappeared.
No, I'm here. So I think the phenomenon is slightly different. It's the moment when you whistle a fault and you point the team and you show what fault was made, and then you have the feeling for a half a second that nobody expected this whistle. And to be honest, I had the same previous Sunday in the final of European Championship. I think it was the first match ball when I whistled reaching over the net by Simone Gianelli, the setter from Italy. And okay, he reacted like, hey, no way, no way. But then after the game, we agreed that we'll see the footage from the game, and then let's discuss the situation. I really think that this unique season gave me really self-confidence that I never expected to have. I kind of am able to be outside of the emotions of the teams, not to be involved in the emotions of the teams. So I am really concentrated now on my work, And it also, by the number of, I don't know, won challenges or good decisions or good remarks from the coaches, I really trust my eyes. I really trust those instinctive calls that, like you said. It helps me a lot. And well, if I whistle reaching over the net, like in the photo, and I'm sure that there was one, then I'm really not worried about if it was correct or not. I'm sure it was correct. Start some misbehavior, it's their problem, not mine. I will simply use the consequences.
I guess there is some effect also on you as a referee when you realize that, okay, so you whistled for the correct thing, but the pressure is on because those are the final points of the set. I mean, in the Euro volley, we had, I think it was in the bronze medal, that the set was running towards the 30, 32, 35s, and there were challenges on almost each point. Where there was a net touch and they were challenging, and everybody was sure that the team won already, and they showed a small net touch on the other side, and everything came back. The feeling on the referee that sometimes the decision is crucial, really, really, we're trying to be like, that nobody remembers. You know, they say the best referees that nobody remembers is been there, who whistled the match and everything. But in those matches, the crucial points that those whistles can decide if it's winning or losing, or if it will be the change and everything. There's a lot of a pressure, a mental pressure on the referee themselves. And how do you cope with that? Juraj, let's ask Juraj, please.
Well, I think in this moment, the most important is to stay calm from outside minimum. Okay, it's not so easy to be calm also inside, but of course, if you feel or if you trust your intuition or some spontaneous decisions, it's okay. But in my opinion, many times it is about showing the teams that this kind of situation is not leading to disturb you, that you are losing the focus. It's crucial from my point to show them that, okay, this happened, but we go on. We still continue the game. And if it's not problem for the referee, that means it should not be problem for us. They should not be afraid. They should not feel that the referee doesn't have the match under control. If I am overruled by challenge, it doesn't mean that I don't have the match in control or under control. I have to control that, even there is some correction of my decision or our decision. And even in these challenges in European Championships, what we could see that it were not huge mistakes, fails by referees. It was thin touch of the net. Imagine the referee whistles the net and finally there is no net. There must be replay. So there was a slight touch or no touch on the finger. Okay, this is something what we cannot see. So it's better not to invent. And if the challenge shows this, then even the players, the coaches, spectators should accept that this is not possible to see, and we have to accept that, and we should not show our nervosity. Of course, sometimes it's different, and there is a big mistake, big fail, we lose this, and how to cope with that, it's much easier if we have good support, because sometimes this is important. You remember what Wojciech said, he received the image from Heike. Sometimes we don't like when challenge referee every time tells us this was the like this and this was like this, and suddenly he doesn't say anything. It means that probably I made a mistake, yeah, if he doesn't say anything. But generally, in some situations, it's good if we receive a feedback from challenge referees supporting us, because this helps us. And another point is to use in crucial situations also wisely the cooperation of the referees, because sometimes we really need just time. Wojciech said, I needed time until the situation calms down. And when this happened, then I could continue. Then I called the Checo. Then I explained. This was nice example how to solve the problem. And the biggest problem is how to get this time, because there are many inputs coming from everywhere. And I again tell one example from a match where the second referee was Daniele Rapisarda, and it was I think it was Russia against Serbia. VNL in Serbia, Novi Sad, and I missed touch of the players not on block, but one of the players when the ball was going down from the block touched the spiker. I didn't see that. Even Daniela did not. It was on my side, but I needed time to solve this problem somehow. So what I did, I didn't ask him what was the problem. I called him. We had the communication system, but I called the second referee to approach to me. And with this, I got extra 3, 4, 5 seconds until he came to me. And in that moment, I had possibility to use the small screen of a challenge referee who was very clever and who showed me that there was really this touch. So the result was that when Daniel arrived to me, I told him, just bow your head. I want you to tell me it was a touch. And he said it was a touch because the captains were not so close. And I said, okay, touch. And the player raised the hand. I couldn't use the challenge system for this, but actually I did. But I showed this I showed the cooperation of the referees to the teams. I showed that I'm calm and I can overrule my decision. And also they finally trusted our future decisions. Okay, so even I made mistake, I think this helped. But the most important is to stay or to try to stay calm, because with high tension, with epinephrine in my head, you cannot think. You even cannot see. Epinephrine makes impossible for you to accommodate. With epinephrine, you even cannot see your enemies close to you. So try to keep the epinephrine away, then you can accommodate, then you can focus what's going on, and then you can go on.
You were talking all about the challenge referee. I think the challenge referee's work becomes more and more crucial and more. It's one more referee for the referee team to help all around. Pati, did you have during the VNL or the Olympic Games, did you have meetings with the challenge referees talking about the work, the collaboration? What do you expect from them, or what do they expect from you? And then during the match, realize and work about that.
Yeah, you know, the challenge referees are an incredibly critical role. I mean, I can't even tell you the importance of clever and hardworking challenge referees who, again, as Juraj mentioned, that they're in the same boat as us. You know, the challenge referees aren't working in separation from the referees. I mean, that is something that's so important to understand. And challenge referees, and I would argue, they are not the referees. This is another really important moment for me, having been a challenge referee a number of times at the FIVB level, but then also now recently just focusing and then working with challenge referees, is there has to be the concept that you're working in support of each other. And that's not like if I make a call, let's say, we call the ball out and the challenge referee says, no, it's in. I mean, that's cooperation. You know, they're not trying to defend a call I have. They're trying to look at things as a neutral party, almost in a sense. But the reality is there are many moments in the game where there are gray areas, right? There are gray elements, especially like on that picture that Wojciech showed. The picture that Wojciech showed at reaching over, there's a lot of elements that they could show a picture that would, based on where the camera is, because if the camera's on one side of the net offset by, 5, 6, 7 centimeters, and then trying to look down the line, that's not, you can't see the true center, the true center of the net going up. You can't see clearly the space. If the camera's on the right side off center, you can't see the space. A very strong challenge referee is going to make sure that that's made clear to the public. Or they're going to make sure that, as Juraj mentioned, they cut off the top of the frame and only put in there what really should be there. And sometimes, that does or doesn't happen. I would argue that when we were at the games, both the VNL and at the Olympic Games, we weren't able to meet as much as and this was a discussion we had, as much as we wished we had, right? Because I will tell you this, the schedule was daunting, to say the least. The number of matches in a day. And then, of course, the coaches had, there weren't enough coaches there. And then we only had really at the VNL one coach there trying to cover 2 courts. It's impossible. And then you had some remote coaches. So, really, we were meeting a lot on our own, discussing things. And, meeting with the challenge referees at dinner, at lunch, about things that we felt were important to discuss with them. I remember a number of meetings in the locker room with Heike Kraft, and we didn't always agree. But I made it clear to her that from an officiating perspective, this is kind of how we were feeling. And the cooperation of listening, I think that's always important. When someone says, Patty, hey, I need this, or I'm concerned about this, my job is to listen to that person and have empathy for that person and care about what they're thinking so that we are good teammates. You have to function. You have to care about how someone else feels in order to function as a strong team. And you got 2 guys here for sure that I've always felt have always listened and been helpful. And Wojciech, you don't remember this, Wojciech, but I think it's, well, maybe you will actually remember it. We only had one woman R1 a men's game at the Olympic Games. I'm going to repeat it again here. And I don't know if you guys realize 50% of the world, and that's a small number, and that's not quite correct. I think there might be more women. 50% of the world is made up of women. I don't know if anybody realizes that, but 50% of the world is made up of women. And also, they're of the highest quality as the men, right? We know this. So quality isn't the issue. Yet only one woman, and thank God we moved at least a little bit the dial, refereed R1 to game. And I want to make it really important, a strong discussion I want to have with this group to be listening and the future groups in the future is that I left the VNL after roughing a lot of games. VNL was different. I refereed R2 and R1, not as many as the 2 guys here did, but more than I ever had, so I was grateful. And the reality is after that experience, as Juraj said, I would argue 50 times better than I was when I entered the VNL. I want you to hear that. I was a 50 times better referee from all the years before after having refereed both genders, because doing both genders, as both my colleagues here know, changes your learning curve, how you manage stress, how you manage players. And I left that game incredibly excited that I was going to Japan, more prepared than I'd ever been, but also a little bit like nostalgic that if I had been repping the men since 2013, how much better I could have been after this last 8, 9, 10 years, right? And I can tell you this, if you're reffing the guys, that generates a whole new learning curve, a whole new educational piece in the game itself. And so getting to your point, and I know I'm off center a little bit here, but I think it's important in the element of challenge review, because in my challenge reviews, when I had discussion with Heike, most of them had to do with the guys because of the speed, right? The speed of the game and the chances of missing that touch call that Mokry's saying. The women's game is incredible, but it moves a little bit slower pace. If you've reffed both, you know this. These are just facts. So there were moments when I was talking to Heike about, this is what I need. This is what I as a referee in that moment needed. And then, we had a discussion and then she goes, I understand what you're saying. But this is the critical piece of the challenge referees, is to be there to build the confidence of the team while still executing the right call from the video review for the teams, for the appropriate call of the teams. But the reality as well is to build the confidence of the referees that are working. And there were moments, and Mokry, I'm proud of you for talking about something that was outside the space of officiating. This is the element of a coach. Another coach might go, you're right, you can't do what you just did. But the reality is that you should use all the tools that are available to you to make the appropriate call and the correct call for the teams. That's the bottom line, the teams, the viewers want the correct call made. And whatever we need to do to make that happen, that's what's most important, even if we go against our own call. And one thing happened. We had Wojciech was reffing with me. I was R1 on this game, Canada, Venezuela. You know, the quality of the game, there's a big difference between those two teams, right? I was grateful to be there. But the reality was it was my first R1 game since maybe a month before. And Canada player on my side, on my right, went up to, ball was tight on the net. Player went up and grabbed it. And I remember I had backed up a bit and I was trying to open my mind, as Mokry says, open my mind to what was happening in front of me, not focus in too tightly. And that Canadian player went right over the top of the Venezuela blocker, who didn't jump quite as high as I thought he should have, and literally went right over top of him by about a foot, I felt, and took the ball and threw it down. And in that moment, I said, whoa, that guy is in the opponent's space. But it took a second because remember, the speed. I haven't been working with the speed. And I have an R1. And as he threw the ball down, I was thinking, I go, you got to blow your whistle on this, girl, because he's in the opponent's space. It was hilarious. I wish you could have heard my brain, which was moving way too slow, right? And then Wojciech goes beep and calls a net on this player. And I literally he went over and I said, okay, I can call reaching over late or just let Wojciech go. And I said, there's no need. It's a net. It's going to the appropriate team. Wojciech makes a net call. Things finish. And I literally go, Wojciech, praise God for you, right? Otherwise, I would have called reaching over well after the ball had hit the floor, right? It was hilarious. And one thing Wojciech said, this is what he said, and this is what I love about him. He goes, I'm there for you, Patty. Because he knew what happened. And he goes, I'm there for you, Patty. And I'm like, that's all a woman can ask for, right? It's all I can ask for. And he was there. So, I mean, the points of the challenge review, the points of your R2s or your R1s, you know, and the cooperation, the communication, that absolutely has to happen. And the challenge review operators are not separate from the team at all.
You know that the level of the matches, the level of the teams was really high. Higher than the expectations, because they said that after a pandemic year with no many matches and nothing strong enough for them to work and to compete and to keep their high level and everything. But then arriving to Rimini and the Olympic Games afterwards, it was really high level. Did it surprise you all?
No, I expected this. It was I think, like us as referees, the players were also happy to play finally in this kind of level. So they tried to show their best, and they did. It was really very good competition, and it is interesting. But it was not only in volleyball, but in many sports. The commentaries and the experts were saying that based on the quality, the Tokyo Games were much better than in Rio. I was actually with one gymnastics referee yesterday. We met at university, and he was also in Tokyo, and he was also in Rio before. And he said that it was huge difference in the level. What showed these gymnasts, it was the sports gymnastics. It was huge difference between the level of Rio in these 5 years. Maybe it was this 1 year more for training, and Tokyo now. And the only thing he said was we're missing spectators, and that I said, oh, but that was the same for us. But I think maybe that was a remote message of players to spectators that they wanted to show the best they can, and it was from my perspective, it was not a surprise. I was expecting good performance, not worse, for sure, not worse.
Was there any, I would say, special cases or special things that we witnessed this matches that were that the players probably used new techniques or something? There's a lot of talking about the catching ball, a technique that the Polish team invented. Sorry, Wojciech, but everything starts in Poland. Everything bad starts in Poland, yeah? So the catching ball and pushing it to the block and everything, it became more and more common to see players, not just from the Polish team, but from also other teams. And there was a lot of talking between referees that we were discussing, and I heard and I saw some people talking. How would be the reaction of the coaches or the referee coaches or the referees themselves during the matches? Can you elaborate a little bit on these things?
Well, from my point of view, okay, we received recommendations from Willie and also from the other members of staff that we should focus on this issue. The problem is we didn't focus from the beginning. We were not so strict in VNL from the beginning about that, and we just continued the matter which started maybe, I would say, in World Championships 2018. This was the beginning of this kind of thrown balls, not with only with one hand, but with two hands as well. And I even don't know how it became to be so popular in volleyball, because I can tell you that I watched last week or 2 weeks ago, I watched one game from 2015, 2014, and it was absolutely normal to call these kind of mistakes. 1, 2, 3 times in the match, the referee called a thrown ball without any problems, and everybody accepted. Suddenly, we started somehow to be probably afraid, or we just misinterpreted the meaning, keep the ball flying. Yeah, probably. Let's play. Let the ball fall down on the floor, and it became a different way of playing the ball. After VNL in Tokyo was a good meeting before the competition, and we decided, all of us, that okay, we start from the beginning, and it was visible that during the competition, this kind of balls almost disappeared. Of course, first matches, first calls like this, the reaction was there. Every time, the team which made the mistake was against the team which was on the other side. Oh, it was obvious. Yeah, it's every time like this. Then you call it on the other side, then they are against you, and this finally, because it is obvious. But I can tell you, after when we reached the playoffs, there was almost never possibility to call this kind of mistake, because they changed the way how to attack. Even Facundo Conte, even French players. It's not only Poland, okay? Maybe most of them played in Poland before, but okay. So they changed their habits. Even Italian players, they started to spike or to push the ball with a closed hand, not open hand. So it was changing, and I think if we continue, unfortunately, I watched some games in European Championships, and it was not so strict in all the matches. Maybe that was the reason why in some like final game there was a reaction of the teams, because they were not used for this from the whole European competition. So the message from this, in my opinion, is not to be afraid and to whistle from the beginning of the competition, and then we will have no problems in other competitions, because we give the message to others with this.
Wojciech, do you want to add something as the one who's talking on behalf of Poland? And
so many times you mentioned Poland. Okay. In the
I
final
like Poland. I like to go there.
I know. What Juraj mentioned about the final game in European Championship, it was Alessandro Micheletto who threw the ball, and when I whistled, his reaction was, yeah, there was. But the team protested. And then a few minutes later, I whistled against Slovenia, and this team was not in Tokyo, and the reaction was much stronger. And you could really feel that the teams that were in Tokyo, they were informed before the tournament by the staff that we will really put attention on those catch balls. So those teams that were in Tokyo, they were really prepared. Like Polish team, they were never surprised. And I know from the inside of the team that when there was a call for a catch by one of the Polish players, the others told them, hey, we were told, you knew that the referees will call it. Why do you play like this? So I can only support what Juraj said. If we all go the same line, if we all whistle those same very visible catches, then we will really change the manner of playing volleyball. And from the history, I think we all know that we kept the same letters in the rules of the games, but still we interpreted it in different ways depending on the time. And I really agree with you, right, that we simply kind of accepted this idea of letting the ball fly too much. This is why we went too far. So now we have to go slightly back. But I would like to, if you allow me, I would like to go back for one moment to the previous item, the challenge referee. The photo that you see is the moment in the semifinal, Russia against Brazil, when we were really 1 millimeter from a disaster. What happened there, the game was running smoothly, and then suddenly on the tablet, I saw that there was something wrong with the lineups, and I heard from the e-score, the communication, hey, wrong server. And I was sure that there was a proper server, but it took nearly 2 minutes for us to fix the thing. And then after one rally, the Russian team protested because they were missing 1 point. So we had the data project person at the table. It seemed like the problem was solved, but then we had, again, 1 minute break. We asked the other team, what's the score by your statisticians? At first they said, no, there was no 1 more point for Russia. But there was the role of challenge referee. It was Heike Kraft who was the challenge referee there. And she started immediately to review last rallies. And we solved the problem. And even if we didn't by the way we did, really trust me, like 15 seconds later, I heard Heike saying, hey, I found it. The score is, and she told us the proper score. So the challenge referee can really help the show, can really help our work in different manners. This is why it's so important. The challenge referee is watching the game, is really in the game the whole time.
Yeah, this is really great information. This is, I think, the challenge referee is kind of a support, and not just, he could be also a referee coach mentally a little bit by helping you correct call, Wojciech, correct call, Pati, yeah, that ball was in, the ball, it was reaching, good call for that. Even these small things that you can hear, it's reassuring, it gives you a lot of confidence. And on the other hand, also the help desk, like you said, Wojciech. Last point that I want to talk before I'm going to let you all start to tell us about the funny parts that you remember and all the good parts and you know, the bloopers and everything. But last questions to Pati. You will have, don't worry, you'll have your chance. Pati, how was the communication? We were talking now, Wojciech and you, I was talking about the players knowing about that this fault will be called, or this thing is more emphasized of the referees on some small situations. How was the communications with the teams and the coaches during the tournaments? Did you have any meetings with them before the tournament, or was there any open communication line between the referees and you know, unofficial communication between the referees and the coaches, players?
Well, let me reflect a little bit here on this question. Maybe what's most important is what the coaches reflected to us. I did get a call one night from the U.S. Coach, one of our U.S. coaches, saying, like, what's going on? And it was interesting to me. This happened a few times actually on the floor. I'd show up to a match and a coach would go, what's going on with this? You know, that's what we're doing. I think the two guys really explained it the best. What we could have done better, and that we're all reflecting upon, what we could have done better is right off the bat at the VNL. You know, you normally don't change, and I would call it the rules of the game. You normally don't change the execution of the rules of the game right before an Olympic Games. That's not something that normally happens, right? So the teams show up at the VNL. We're basically saying to them, sort of, that we're not going to allow, for example, a catch ball like this, like you've been doing for the last 4 years, by the way. No one's been calling it for 4 years, and then now we're calling it. They're like, whoa, like, why didn't you start calling this 4 years ago? Why are we changing this so quickly? We've been playing this way in preparation. Remember, many of the teams are in preparation for the games for 4 or 5 years. So for us to say, well, you still got a lot of time here, they go, no, this process or this change should have happened at the beginning of the cycle. That was one thing I heard, and out of respect for the coaches and players, I listen. I don't argue. I don't say anything. I say, okay, I respect what you're saying to me, and I listen to them. So I think in the future, that's a thought, right, that we all need to be aware of, that many of the coaches were surprised by this. But I think another thing that I really wish, and I know a lot of us have talked about it, is like right at the first day of the VNL, when there was this discussion, hey, you guys need to call this, which was clear that it needed to be called by everyone. And there was and I would argue that, and apologize if I didn't hear this right, but we weren't as consistent as a team as we should have been at the VNL. Some folks were calling it as we called at the Olympic Games, and some of us weren't. And I think that didn't lead to this preparedness for the games that the teams needed for themselves, right, to be in the best position, not have those calls made. But at the games, we had a pretty serious meeting with the boss that said, you will call this, and that's that. And I felt that was very helpful. Entertaining as well, the language style, but I've been coached for a number of years by very strict coaches, so and a strict father, so it didn't bother me. And then right off the bat, we were very, very consistent. That only helped, as Wojciech mentioned, the teams. That has to happen within a team. I can have my own personal feelings as a referee, but ultimately it doesn't help the refereeing team or the playing teams if I call it the way I want to call it, because I don't quite support the rule, right? Or the technique of the catch. So I think that's probably something that I learned most particularly is the advanced notice. Were the teams contacted? Were they aware? I have feelings about that, but I'm not going to comment on that tonight because I don't have enough information. I was just a ref, and I wasn't involved in that communication piece with the teams.
Okay, but so we saw that these teams were playing with you. There was the same teams, the same coaches, and also the same group of referees in
Yes.
2 major events for many, many matches, one after the other, meaning they saw the same referees in the matches. Sometimes in VNL or other tournaments, they could see some different referees, groups in different weekends and everything. They saw the same group the whole time. They saw the same referees, and you saw the same coaches. Was there any feedback?
Yeah, there was discussion. Coaches would come to. I mean, there were times coaches would come to us and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And we'd say, "We are calling this. This is the way it is." But I think ultimately, the game changed for them a little bit. They were putting their hands on the ball a little bit longer in the earlier days, earlier years, and now this year that's gone. And to be honest with you, many of us appreciated the clear communication of exactly what had to be called and how it should be called. And the coaches were all wondering, it's always about consistency, Roy. You don't want to show up with a match with Pati where I'm letting him throw it a little bit, and then Mokry is actually enforcing the rule the way it's been given to us, right? So it's as well as doubles. I mean, they say as long as you're consistent, don't worry too much about doubles. But ultimately, we are all aiming towards the idea as a referee. If let's say it's at the Olympic Games or whatever tournament you're at, that all the referees are calling double contacts as consistently within their own game as possible, and then consistently across the line of all referees, right? I don't want to show up at one game with Wojciech where he's calling it as it should be called, and then I show up with Pati and Pati's calling it much tighter because then the players are happening to.
And the communication in general, let's say, did they feel more comfortable because after 2 or 3 matches, they saw the same referee?
Yes. The Olympic Games, they were more comfortable. At the Olympic Games, it was clear after 2 or 3 games exactly what was going to happen.
Okay.
And that helped, as the guys mentioned. That helped a lot.
Okay. So, time for some fun and some funny stories. go ahead, whoever has a story. I saw you, Wojciech, before raising your thing and showing us your strange whistle picture that you wanted to show us.
Yes, if you allow me. But just to make a small comment on what Pati said, what I missed in Rimini, to be honest, was that we spent first 30 days, a full month, with 12 men's teams in one hotel, all the referees and 12 men's teams. And we never had occasion to make like organized meeting with coaches or captains or players. And I really think that we missed this opportunity, because when we spoke in small groups with several coaches, we could exchange really interesting remarks. They learned a lot, and they admitted that they didn't know some of the interpretations or even the rules as good as they should probably. But I wish we had organized the meeting. But back to funny things. So most of you maybe know that we had to use fabric covers on our whistles. The one that you see, we received it in Tokyo before the tournament. And in my first game, I was first referee. It was USA against France. And you can imagine in the first, I was trying to give a signal for the service. I had my hand raised and I couldn't blow the whistle because the fabric of the cover blocked my whistle. So I tried to blow it once, twice, then I moved it out of my mouth, tried to fix it, and then again to my mouth and tried to whistle. It didn't work. And I could see Erwin Gapet laughing openly at me, saying, helpless referee, not able to start the rally. So only after several seconds, I fixed the thing and I started next rally. It's really hilarious, but you can imagine how stressful it was at the same time.
For sure. Juraj, do you have anything to tell us, to a story or something?
Yes, now it's funny. Now it is funny. It was a situation from VNL. First men's match, because first 3 days were women playing, and I was in women competition twice first and once second. And the next day was men competition, and I was first referee in a match, Serbia against Slovenia. It was a good match, tough match. And in the fourth set, finally I decided, okay, now I will issue a yellow card to assistant coach of Slovenia. And I wanted to take the yellow card, and there were no cards on the post. And the reason was that first 3 days, the cards were there on the post. So on the fourth day, I haven't checked. I checked the height of the stand, but I haven't checked if the cards are there. I know who removed the cards, but okay, it was my very good friend. And the problem was that the fourth set was getting worse and worse regarding the behavior. And then you have to be calm. There was no more technical timeouts as we had in VNL, because it was scored somewhere 17 something. So no chance to call second referee to bring the cards. And so I said to myself, let's continue with the European style, solve the problems with smile, or let's say better 3 smiles than 1 card. And finally, I was happy there was no fifth set and no cards were needed. The only problem had the supervisor at the end, who asked me, why in that moment you haven't issued a card? So my answer was, I saved it for the fifth set, which was never happened. So this was the situation. I think now it's funny. Now it's funny. That moment, it was not so funny.
Yeah, for sure it can happen to everyone. I guess that if the supervisor, the referee coach is not watching us now, so it didn't happen. Pati, anything for you to say, to add us, to give us some stories?
No, I have a funny, fun story with one of the guys. Brazil. I was second referee. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Brazil, Germany. It was an incredible game, and there was a bit of fight happening. One of the Brazilian setter had gone to play a ball at the net, and there was some controversy about, in the plane, not in the plane, reaching over by Germany. I had my own feelings about what was going on, but and giving feedback to my R1. But ultimately, a little bit of spat, and I was paying attention to the coaches or to the players. And one of the players for Germany, well, let's just get to the point. The setter for Brazil turned to the net and made some actions, right, and some comments. And then, you know, it started to like build. And I moved forward, and the Brazil was on my left. I moved forward on my left and said, hey, guys, you know. And then it didn't stop, of course. And it wasn't obnoxiously loud. It was just more of, it was just escalating slowly, gently. I thought the guys it was more in fun, but also like, and other things. And then I kind of stepped forward and I did a very soft tweet to the setter and said, hey, come on, let's go, let's move on, let's continue. And as Juraj said, smiles are always a positive way, right? Always to use that. So I was smiling, going, come on, guys, let's go. And then the captain, which was, I love that guy, he comes like walking right towards me. And of course, remember now, this team doesn't know me. This is the first time they've met me. And he comes walking right at me, and he's got his mask on, and he literally gets about 3 feet from me, and he takes his finger and he points at me. And this is hilarious. I felt like I was in some type of Buddhist moment. He goes, you don't know. And I'm listening, and I'm like, I don't? He goes, you don't know. And I went, okay. And he goes, you gotta know. And I went, all right, I'll be listening. And then he turned around and he smiled and he turned around and left. And then by then everything was done. And I went back to the post and I went, I actually think I know exactly what he meant. And what he meant was, you don't know what started this. Like, it's not my guy. That guy went across the net, started it. He responded. I always discover typical sibling fighting, right? There's always someone who starts the fight. What he was trying to imply is, listen, don't talk to my guy, talk to that guy, because you don't know what's going on here. And I thought it was hilarious because the women don't approach, and I would argue, because I've refereed a ton of women, they don't really approach things this way with you, right? Nor do I think even a captain would get involved in that. She'd just go to her player and go, hey, let's go. So that was my first experience with the guys. And I'm like, this is hilarious if this is how they talk to you guys. And it was a blast. I was like, this is going to be a wild ride for me because I've never seen it before. And that actually happened a number of times for me. There was a moment, I'm going to say one more story that was really funny, that I decided to be brutally honest. This was my first R1 game. And you guys, I understand the speed, and I knew the speed was going to be fast, but unless you're in it, remember, you're like an athlete, unless you've been trained in it, it takes a minute to get up to speed. And there was a guy here on my right hitting outside, and he hit the ball, ripped it down the line. And to be honest with you, I didn't turn my head at quite the speed I needed to, nor did I use the technique that I wish I had learned later. So as I turned my head, the ball had already hit the ground on like the 13-foot line. It was already bouncing up before I even got my eye on it. And I remember thinking, whoa, that's faster than I thought, right? Because I didn't move my head quick enough. And I saw it and I went, we don't have line judges, remember? I know we didn't have line judges. So I was like, let's call in. Because the odds of it being an in are higher. So I went in, gave the ball, and then the setter who was on the line literally looks up at me, and it was hilarious. I loved his face because, of course, the guys were incredibly generous to me. A lot of them were like, hey, good to see you here. And he looks up at me and he starts laughing, which is never a good sign. He looks up at me and he goes, in? Like, he looks at me and he goes, in? Like, are you sure? And then I looked at him, I go, out? And he goes, out, like that. And I go, so sorry. I go, sorry. I was a little late to the line. And then he goes, that's okay. And he goes, it was out about a foot. And I go, whoa, that's a lot. He goes, that's a lot. And I go, sorry about that. You're going to have to challenge. So then he challenged, and it showed on the camera. It was about, it's not that far out. And then he looks up and he goes, hey, no problem. After it was done, I looked at him, I go, sorry, guys. They go, no problem. I go, listen, it's going to take me a while to get up to the speed to this guy. And he goes, no, we get it. So it was just a great moment, right? Between a new ref, not having done them before, and the way the guys were just kind of like, no worries, we got challenged, everything's fine. And I think this is the respect element too. The guys know me from reffing the ladies, and out of respect, to be honest with you, out of respect for me, they were giving me a chance to kind of get caught up with them. And At that moment, I really said to myself, this is going to be a gas because these guys are funny. And it was a blast.
I think these are the small points of humanity. I mean, showing that you're human, he's human, that they accept it. This is the referee is a human being that can make mistakes or not and everything, and it's acceptable. It cannot finish with a blast and shouting and discussions and everything about that.
Well, and I think Yuri's point about a smile, I mean, there's, you know, when you get defensive, even in life, if someone gets defensive with you, it just doesn't go well, right? You get a feeling about this person. And when a person's like, hey, yeah, you know, I'm sorry about that, I might have been wrong, or, when someone is humble and yet a professional, there's a way for a leader, and I would call, whether they're your boss or your partner or whatever it is, that when you respond to conflict, the way Yuri and Wojciech are saying, when you just wait, and you bring the human side of it. Now, there's some risks at moments. You have to know when these things will work or not work. But a smile and some straightforwardness is helpful. And that happened continually through the VNL. There were many moments. I remember one time I was refereeing France, and we had some serious, as we mentioned before, some scoring issues. And I remember the France coach walked up and he gets started to get frustrated. He goes like, "What's going on? Like, what's wrong with you people?" And I walked towards him as my score. I took a couple steps away from her. I said, listen, people haven't scored here for over a year. You got to give them a chance to get into the routine here. We're struggling a little bit. So just give us a chance. We'll get better as the tournament goes on. And he goes, oh yeah. Because they're forgetting that our scorers haven't scored for a year, right? And he goes, oh no, I'm sorry like that. And he turned around and walked away. So I think just showing some level of humanity matters.
Sure. So before finishing and moving to any questions from the audience around us, any major memory that you can share with us, the one strong memory from the Olympic Games or from the VNL that you want to share with us? Juraj.
I will start. For me, the still in my head is the last evening we spent together in a 15 square meter room with 15 people inside. That is the result of lockdown, when after 8 o'clock you cannot go outside to share together an evening, and we found the way. So the life will find the way every time. And it was really brilliant how we could spend several hours speaking together, talking together, chatting, and enjoying that we are still together, because afterwards in a few hours we were traveling around the world. So this was for me the most emotional moment afterwards, after the Olympic Games.
Great thing. Wojciech, do you have anything to share with us?
Okay, unmute. I wish I could find the photo, but I was unable at the moment. It was the moment when we received this wonderful cake in the locker room with 6, I think, names on the top of it. And it was like a farewell cake from our colleagues who are retiring in Tokyo. And we heard some really emotional speeches. And it was my privilege also to say goodbye to Susana Rodriguez, also in European Championship, the final game we did together. Susana is a wonderful person and a wonderful referee. I believe Juraj should invite her for a separate meeting, of course. And I hope she will.
God knows how much I tried. And she knows how much I try, and she owes me one. Don't worry.
I hope she's watching it, or she will watch the recording. Susana, please accept the invitation and come back to volleyball family as soon as you should. But this meeting in the locker room, it was really, really touchy, and there were really smart, wise words that were spoken there.
Pati, your last major memory from all of these tournaments?
No, I'm just so happy that I was and grateful that I was able to be with all my colleagues, right? I really referee I referee for the refereeing, but not really. I referee to be with all these people. I just have incredible, I just can't even begin to tell you what it means to me to belong to a team of people of this quality. You know, to be able to be with a group of people that care about you, that are trying to excel at whatever it is that we're, you know, it's no different than when I was playing. We're all trying to excel at something, be successful at something. And I would argue it's not necessarily even winning. You can win a game and play poorly, and it doesn't feel so great. So the element of us all being referees and trying to be the very best we can be, because we're all at different levels, and your teammates really trying to help you become better at who you are. And you know, the two guys here and Susanna and so many people just really trying to help each of us individually become stronger referees within our own abilities. And it was interesting because when I left the Olympic Games, I felt really positive about the retirement. And then when I got home, there were moments where I'm like, I don't want to retire. I want to be on that stand with my buddies, right, reffing these incredible games. Particularly if, you know, the elevation of the game, particularly for women, continues in the direction it's going. And I was like, God, I won't be able to be in those moments that are like Juraj says. There is something like we just did a seminar with our Norseca and Caribbean friends that said, you know, it's the stress. And I said, there's got to be a moment. And we showed video. I was showing a bunch of video. And I said, there was a moment I showed where like everybody was coming at the refs. And it was just a hilarious moment. And I said, you guys, you have to look at this in a moment like you're saying, you have to like slow everything down and go, this is a moment you have to be with this kind of energy that you will not have very often. And you have to like embrace it. It's got to be rather than it being a negative, it's got to be like a challenge. You know, how can you get everybody to calm down and continue, even regardless of whether the call being their way or not, or right or wrong. And there's a beauty to that. And I think particularly for me, that's what I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss like being in these moments with these guys where our conclusion or our outcome is just amazing. And I'm going to bring up a game. You and Juhi in Japan. You remember that final game? I don't know if you remember. I remember Marv Dunphy came up to me, and Marv Dunphy, if you guys don't know, very famous Olympic coach. Many people know him. In America, he's like the most famous coach. And Marv Dunphy was helping coach the team. And Marv comes up to me and he goes, "Those are the two finest referees I've ever seen." And Juraj was down and Juhi was up. And it was the most amazingly performed game by two refs that I've ever seen in a gold medal final. And I said to myself, that's really what it's all about. You know, we all try to do the dance and some days are better than others, but those moments when you have the perfect dance and you leave there with like an incredible feeling of like, you just executed the game so well. I think for me, particularly at the Olympic Games, there were a number of those opportunities to be with my colleagues, and it was amazing. And I want to thank the two guys for sure. And Shamiri popped on here, and I see that. I don't know if he's left, but you know, there are so many great moments that define kind of what we all did at these games and other games. I mean, it doesn't have to be at the Olympic level. It's all across all levels, right? I mean, the game tonight at Hawaii, I'm working with somebody I haven't worked with before, and I'm super excited to see how the Hawaii gets 8,000 people at a game. It's incredible here. And just the ability to perform with another colleague at the college level now, I just think it's such a great value. And it's really the only reason why I referees to be with my colleagues and this high level of play. So I'm going to miss everybody, but I'm super excited about the opportunity to kind of, I call it hang out with them and see what happens.
I think that I wrote Susanna when I heard that she was retiring. I wrote her good luck in her new career and everything. So she said, "I will miss you all." I told her, "You're not going to miss us. We're not going to let you go. This is a family, and you are part of the family as a regular family. Meaning, you cannot leave a family. I mean, maybe you cannot be active. Maybe you'll stop being active." Go work in different things and everything. But Susanna, every time somebody is going to come to your hometown, they're going to call you. When you're going to come to another country or do something, somebody's going to find you. You will not be alone. Nobody's going to leave you, and you will always be welcomed and everything. So I think for everybody who is retiring, this is a part of a family. And no matter what activities you do after you retire, if you stay and you continue working in the volleyball, or you stop and quit and start your own different kind of world and everything, still, this family is still there for you, and the family and the friends, everybody remembers you, and everybody wants to see you and will call you, and you have some specific friends. Those are friends for life. These are really friends for life.
Well, no question. I think what's really critically important to it, it is important that us individuals move on. Because Wojciech and I had a discussion about this idea that, there's a ton of great referees right here on this call. And it's important to move on with our lives into other avenues, whatever it is. And it's important to allow other referees to come in, like what Italy does, and have these incredible experiences. And that, I think, for me, is the single reason why I'm really excited to be retiring, and really excited to see the up and comers come in now and have their opportunities to have these experiences that are, bar the most amazing, bar none to anything else, the most amazing experiences. And yes, and by the way, Roy, to your point, I'm staying with a referee friend here in Hawaii. So it is friends for life.
It's friends for life.
I know anywhere I go in the world, I can call somebody and we have a friend.
For sure.
It's impossible to leave refereeing mafia. It's a mafia.
For sure. Okay, so thank you very much, Patty. Thank you very much, Juraj, Wojciech. Thank you very, very much for your time with us. I'm going to open the stage for any questions. If anybody has from the crowd, anybody who wants to ask any questions or add something, please unmute yourself and you can ask the questions. If not, so we can finish this meeting. If anybody's still awake, or I'm not sure. Maybe they're gonna
Roy, so how you doing, Roy? Andrew here. So
yeah.
First and foremost, just want to thank you for all that you do and all the hard work that you've put in to get all the different guests, whether it's been coaches and referees, and to have this all-star lineup here is pretty exciting. And so I want to thank the three of you for what you have done for volleyball and giving back, and that's part of it. And so that really is amazing. And then just on a personal note to Patty, my fellow referee in North America, just want to wish you all the best on your retirement, and glad that you are not leaving the game and that you'll be with the commission. And the U.S. is going to be better for it, as well as here in Canada and NORCECA as a whole. So thank you to everyone. Really appreciate the chat today. Very enlightening. Thank you.
Andrew is one of our incredible referees out of Canada. Andrew is, one thing about Andrew, and I think it's important, Andrew, is that Andrew also has the philosophy of, and I use the word loving kindness. I haven't said it yet, but I'm going to say it now. Empathy and loving kindness, bringing that to officiating. And he is when we talked about brothers and sisters, Andrew is a major brother of mine, and one of the kindest individuals I've ever been around. And I'm really fired up to be working with NORCECA and watching you ref finally, because we don't get to spend as much time together as I'd like. So he's one of our most amazing people out of NORCECA.
Too kind, Patty. Thank you.
Hello also to Shamhiri from Iran. Hi. Hello, good friend. Nice of you to join us.
Shamiri, how are you doing? I wanted to say hi. One of our great referees who retired.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. It was very nice. I am happy to see you. It was very nice. It's so late in Iran, but I stay. If you are going tomorrow to holiday, I will go to the work. For you is end of the week. For me is starting the week. But it was very nice. I am very happy to see all of my friends. I hope see you soon again.
Thank you, Shamiri.
Say hi to your wife for me, okay?
So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us in this meeting. Thank you again, Patty, Juraj, Wojciech. This was really, really nice, really exciting. Really informative and interesting to see another different points of view, different aspects of us as referees, or some of us who will be there, who won't be there, but to enjoy and to listen it, to share it all together. Hope to see you all soon again, still working on some other Zooms. I hope Susanna is gonna accept my invitation finally after almost a year that I've been asking her every month or so. If not her, so we will try somebody else. So stay safe, good night, good morning, and have a good day and everything. Thank you, stay safe.
Thank you, Roy, for the invitation. Thanks.
Thank you, Roy.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Patty. See you around.
Thank you all.